Good day, children, and welcome to another edition of Division. That's right, today we're going to be talking about how to divide this and various other fractions. So let's dive right into it. The first step is we need to do our keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep this fraction on the left the same. We're going to change the sign to multiplication, and we're going to flip. We're going to put our 7 up top, and we're going to put our 9 on the bottom. Now, let's go ahead and look at our diagonals. What's the biggest number that goes into 2 and 7? Biggest number is 1, so that's not going to help us. What's the biggest number that goes into 5 and 9? Well, the biggest number is going to be 1 as well. So again, we're not helped by our diagonal trick. So we can go ahead and multiply across the top. 5 times 7 is 35. And let's multiply across the bottom. 2 times 9 is 18. Now, this is a perfectly acceptable answer, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in a box. But in 6th grade, we also need to be able to write this as a mixed number. So we can do that by asking ourselves the answer to this division problem. What is 35 divided by 18? Well, I know that 18 will go into 35 one time without going over. The question is what is left over? Well, to figure that out, I can simply do 35, subtract 18 on my calculator, or I can do it by hand, and I find that there's a remainder of 17. There's 17 left over, and the denominator stays the same. So now we have our mixed number, and we have our improper fraction. And just so you can see that I am indeed correct, boom, there you go. So now let's go ahead and do another one. Now we have 4/15 divided by 3/6. Once again, we're going to do keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the fraction on the left the same. We're going to change the sign to multiplication, and we're going to flip the fraction on the right. We'll put our 6 up top and our 3 on the bottom. Now, let's look at our diagonals again. What is the biggest number that will go into 15 and 6? Well, I know that 3 will go into both 6 and 15. 3 will go into 6 twice, so I'm going to turn that into a 2. And 3 goes into 15 5 times, so that now becomes a 5. And then if I look at my other diagonals, the biggest number that goes into 4 and 3 is 1, so that's not going to help me. So now I can just multiply across the top and the bottom. So 4 times 2 is 8. And then 5 times 3 is going to be 15. Now, this is in simplest form because it's not an improper fraction, so we don't have to write it as a mixed number. And the largest number that will divide into 8 and 15 is 1. So we're done. It's in simplest form, my friends. Okay, let's do another one. Once again, I'm going to do my keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep this fraction on the left the same. I'm going to change the sign to multiplication, and I'm going to flip. I'm going to put my 5 up top and 1 on the bottom. Now again, my diagonals. Biggest number that goes into 3 and 5 is just 1, and then these are just 1s. So we're good to just multiply across the top. 1 times 5 is 5, and now across the bottom. 3 times 1 is 3. Now, this is a perfectly acceptable answer, so I'm going to put this in a box. This is an improper fraction. But in 6th grade, we also need to be able to write this as a mixed number. So, what's the answer to the division problem? 5 divided by 3. Well, I know that 3 will go into 5 once without going over. And there's going to be a remainder of 2. And then, of course, the denominator stays the same. So, we're going to box that up and call it good. And just to double check, yes, we are indeed correct. Now, let's do another example. What do I need to do here? The same as what I've done on the other problems. I'm going to keep, the fraction on the left the same. I'm going to change the sign to multiplication, and I'm going to flip. I'm going to put my 2 up top, and I'm going to put my 1 on the bottom. Now, let's look at our diagonals. What is the largest number that goes into 4 and 2? Well, I know that 2 is the largest number. 2 goes into itself once. 2 goes into 4 2 times. And then if I look at my other diagonals, the largest number that goes into 5 and 1 is just 1. So that doesn't help us. We can just move on. Now, multiply across the top. 5 times 1 is 5. And 2 times 1 is 2. Now, this is an acceptable answer. It's an improper fraction. 5 halves works. But we also must know how to write this as a mixed number. So we do that by doing the division. What is 5 divided by 2? Or how many times will 2 go into 5 without going over? Well, I know 2 will go into 5 4 times. Whoops. Now, what am I talking about? 2 will go into 5 2 times, because 2 times 2 is 4, so that's the whole number. And then there'll be a remainder of 1, and then the denominator stays the same. So 2 and 1/2 is going to be our mixed number answer. And just to make sure, we can see that both of those answers do work. Now, let's do it again. We're practicing, we're exercising that part of our brain. We got to do our keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep this the same. We're going to change the sign to multiplication, and we're going to flip. We're going to put our 12 up top, and we're going to put our 5 on the bottom. Now, let's look at our diagonals. What is the biggest number that goes into 12 and 10? Well, I know that 2 will go into both of them. 2 goes into 12 6 times. And 2 goes into 10 5 times. Let's look at the other diagonal. What is the biggest number that goes into 7 and 5? Biggest number is 1. So we're done. Let's go ahead and multiply across the top. 7 times 6 is 42. And 5 times 5 is 25. Now, once again, we have an improper fraction, which is perfectly fine. However, we also must write this as a mixed number. And we do that by asking ourselves, what is 42 divided by 25? Well, we know that 25 will go into 42 one whole time. Now, we need to find out what the remainder is. And to do that, we can simply do 42 minus 25 on our calculators if you'd like. And you end up with a remainder of 17. And then the denominator stays the same. So, the answer there is 1 and 17/25. Let's just double check, make sure we're correct. Boom, 14/25 and 1 and 17/25. Let's do a few more examples. What if I got a mixed number? Now you remember with mixed numbers, we want to turn them into improper fractions next. And we do that by multiplying and adding. So we're going to do 6 times 4 is 24, and 24 plus 2 is going to be 26. So our new fraction is going to be 26 over 6. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. We're going to multiply and then add. 12 times 1 is 12, and 12 plus 1 is 13. So now we have a 13 up top, and the bottom stays 12. Now, we can do our algorithm now, so let's go ahead and do it. We're going to do our keep, change, flip, so we'll keep the fraction on the left side the same. We're going to change the sign to multiplication, and we're going to flip. we'll put our 12 up top, and we'll put our 13 on the bottom. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at our diagonals. What is the biggest number that goes into 12 and 6? 6 is the biggest number. 6 goes into itself once, so we cross that out and put a 1. And 6 goes into 12 twice, so we will cross that out and put a 2. Let's look at our other diagonal. What is the biggest number that goes into 13 and 26? 13 is the biggest number. 13 goes into itself once, and 13 goes into 26 twice. Now we're ready to go ahead and multiply across the top. 2 times 2 is 4, and across the bottom, 1 times 1 is 1. And remember, this is a division problem. 4 divided by 1 equals 4. So our answer is nice and pretty. It's just a 4. Now, let's do a couple more examples and then we'll call it. Let's do this one right here. Once again, we have to add the extra step of turning these mixed numbers into improper fractions by simply multiplying and then adding. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 plus 1 is 10. Go ahead and put our 10 up the top, and then our denominator stays the same. And now let's do that with the other fraction. 6 times 1 is 6, and 6 plus 4 is 10. Denominator stays the same. Now we can do our keep, change, flip. We're going to keep the fraction on the left the same. We're going to change the sign to multiplication, and we're going to flip. We'll put our 6 up top, and we'll put our 10 on the bottom. Now, let's go ahead and look at our diagonals. What is the biggest number that goes into 3 and 6? We know that 3 is the biggest number. 3 goes into itself once, and 3 goes into 6 2 times. Let's look at our other diagonal. What is the biggest number that goes into 10 and 10? Well, we know that would be 10. 10 goes into itself once, and it goes into itself once again. And now we can simply multiply across the top. 1 times 2 is 2, and across the bottom, 1 times 1 is 1. And remember, all fractions are division, so 2 divided by 1 equals 2. And that's our quotient for right there. Now, let's do one final problem. This one. Once again, we have to add the little step of multiplying and adding. 9 times 5 is 45, and 45 plus 1 is going to be 46. So now we have 46 up top, and our bottom number stays the same. Let's do the same thing on the right one. 6 times 7 is 42, and 42 plus 4 is going to be 46. And then the bottom number stays the same. Now we can do our algorithm. We can do our keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the one on the left the same, 46 over 5. We're going to change the sign to multiplication. And we're going to flip. We'll put our 7 up top and our 46 on the bottom. Now, let's look at our diagonals. What is the biggest number that goes into 5 and 7? Well, the biggest number is 1, so that's not going to help us. Let's look at our other diagonals. What is the biggest number that goes into 46 and 46? Well, we know that answer is going to be 46. 46 goes into itself once, and once again down here. Now we can go ahead and multiply across the top. 1 times 7 is 7, and across the bottom. 5 times 1 is 5. Now, we have an improper fraction because the top is larger than the bottom. That's perfectly fine, but we also must write it as a mixed number. And we do that by answering the division problem. What is 7 divided by 5? Well, I know that 5 will go into 7 one whole time. And I know that there will be 2 left over. That's where I put my remainders, always on the top of the fraction. And then the bottom number stays the same. And so my other answer is 1 2/5. And just to make sure we did it correctly, boom, 7/5 or 1 2/5 is correct. Anyways, I hope this was helpful to you, and best of luck on your assignments.